No accountability is how many of the other families are viewing this. This report is the result of the largest ever independent investigation carried out into allegations of police misconduct or criminality, and it is scathing, particularly about South Yorkshire Police, which it says failed fundamentally in its planning for that match at Hillsborough in 1989, in its response to the unfolding disaster, in how it dealt with supporters and families who were looking for loved ones on that day. It says they had a very defensive approach to the investigations that followed and the inquiries that followed, trying to deflect the blame from themselves onto fans, and of course those allegations about fans that followed, repeatedly disproven, deeply distressing for the families. The report is also very critical of West Midlands Police, which carried out the investigation into the Hillsborough disaster at the time and supported one of the inquiries afterwards. It says that investigation was wholly unsatisfactory, it was too narrow, it showed a bias towards South Yorkshire Police and against the Liverpool fans, and it said if that hadn't been the case, if it had been a proper investigation, all of what happened could have come to light much sooner. The report, as you say, also names 13 officers who they say, if they'd still be serving, would have had a case to answer for either gross misconduct or misconduct. Now, those officers can't face any proceedings now because they've left the force, and the legislation at the time meant that they couldn't face any kind of proceedings in future. Those officers include the Chief Constable of South Yorkshire Police, Peter Wright. He passed away in 2011, but he would have had a case to answer for trying to deflect the blame from his officers, for providing a false narrative. The Assistant Chief Constable, Walter Jackson, would have had a case to answer for failure to plan. David Duckenfield, who was the match commander, who was cleared by a jury of gross negligence manslaughter, would have had to answer 10 allegations, including a failure to respond, lying about fans forcing the gate. So you get a sense of what this report has come back with after all of those years. It has cost upwards of £80 million. This is the story of that investigation. For the families of the 97, it's been a long fight to get to the truth. The role of the police central to their search for justice. And after 13 years, the police watchdog has completed the largest ever independent investigation into alleged police misconduct and criminality.
I can only assume that there was overcrowding, and as they tried to come out from behind the barriers...
It found South Yorkshire Police fundamentally failed in its planning for that match, its response to the unfolding disaster, and how it dealt with supporters and families searching for their loved ones. It names a dozen officers who'd have had a case to answer for gross misconduct if they'd still been serving. Among them, the then Chief Constable Peter Wright, for his part in deflecting blame away from police and towards Liverpool supporters. He died in 2011. And the match commander that day, Chief Superintendent David Duckenfield. He was cleared by a jury of gross negligence manslaughter. No officers, though, will face any action as a result of this report.
The professional standards in place at the time were very different. The law is different now, where officers who have retired can face gross misconduct hearings. That's been a really significant change. And I think what our report really shows is how difficult it is when organisations prioritise defending their reputation rather than openly and immediately admitting the mistakes that they've made and working to put those right. It is very difficult to unpick that so many years later and deliver the accountability that people deserve.
Teenage sisters Sarah and Vicky Hicks were among those who died. For their mother, this report offers little consolation.
I can't believe, having seen the 370-odd page report, how on earth can it have taken them 13 years to write this when there's very little in the report that I didn't already know. It's not really, in my opinion, what I've read so far, telling the families anything.
One result of Hillsborough will be a law compelling public officials to be truthful with investigations. For the family of Andrew Mark Brooks, that, like this report, is not enough.
Nothing will ever change. Nothing will ever change. There'll be another cover-up. There'll be, another disaster. And I think until things, change at the very top, and I include MPs, I include, chief constables, CEOs of organisations, until they're the ones who stop protecting and stop covering up from themselves, nothing will ever change.
No police officers were ever convicted in connection with Hillsborough. The families already knew none would face action as a result of this report. Nearly 37 years on, for many, that justice they sought remains elusive. We heard there some of the reaction from the families of the victims. Others have said today that this report isn't enough. It's not nearly any more than they learnt and have known over the years, and they've waited too long for that report. They're not sure why those officers who can't face any proceedings now couldn't have faced those many years ago, because they say a lot of the facts were known. And a lawyer for some of those victims' families have said it's exposed a system where officers can walk away without consequences. There's accountability that's being denied here, no justice. Yes, they're getting the facts, but they're not getting that accountability. We have had a statement from the current Chief Constable of South Yorkshire Police, Lauren Poultney, who said, "There is nothing I can say today which can take away the years of pain and hurt caused by the force I now lead. On behalf of South Yorkshire Police, I fully accept the IOPC report, which highlights a litany of failures, and am so deeply sorry for the pain and heartache caused. The report is clear in that people attended a football match in Sheffield and therefore they were in our care. The force failed them and also failed their loved ones in the days, months and years after. This will always be a point of deep regret and shame for South Yorkshire Police." Now, one fact that the families have talked about a lot over the years is the view that there was a cover-up, that some sort of coordination in the response of those police forces. This inquiry said it found no evidence to support that. It needs a high evidential proof to bring that claim. That's something which many families wanted to see as a result of this report, one of the many disappointments they have as a result of what has been published today.